welcome to Biller Perspectives on Real-Time Payments. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Gerry Gaetz, former CEO of Payments Canada, former executive with the Bank of Canada, and a member of the Board of Advisors for Click-to-Pay. A big thanks to Payments Canada for continuing to build this annual conference. I think it's fair to say that there hasn't been much innovation in bill payments in Canada for some time. That's our panel focus today. We have a lot of ground to cover, but we'll have time at the end of the session for our audience. So please send your questions to the box on your screen. First, I'd like to introduce the panelists. So I'll start with Lisa Larsen. Lisa is the VP of Finance for Make-A-Wish Canada. Lisa thrives on the dual demands of her portfolio as head of finance, ensuring complete accountability and compliance, while at the same time driving innovation and process improvements in support of Make-A-Wish Canada's amazing amalgamation journey. Welcome, Lisa. Next, we have Scott Lapstra of Lapstra Consulting. Scott has been in the Canadian payments industry for about 20 years, leading the emerging payments group at MasterCard and launching Tangerine Bank's payments division and the new credit card product in 2015. Scott now leads a boutique consulting practice focused on helping financial institutions, fintechs, and technology providers. Scott is a recognized leader in digital banking and credit card payments. Welcome to you, Scott. Next, we have Mike Bradley, founder of Click-to-Pay, Canada's first real-time bill payment service, which launches today. Mike has nearly 30 years in payments and digital banking, beginning back in the early days of debit card rollout and internet banking. As head of Visa Canada's product team from 2004 to 2012, Mike and his team led the launch of new products, including Chip and PIN, Visa Debit, Visa Infinite, prepaid, and mobile payments. Welcome, Mike. And finally, we have Raphael Karamichailidis, the manager of collection strategy at TELUS. Raphael is responsible for driving the consumer mobility and future-friendly home collections portfolio. He also represents TELUS as a member of the board of directors for the Telecom Risk Management Association of Canada and is chair of the membership committee. Welcome, Raphael. So let's jump right in. And I'm going to start with Mike. Mike, over the years, we've seen changes to payments in Canada, including things like e-transfer, chip and PIN, and contactless. I wonder if you can start us off with giving your perspective about where we are today and how we got here.
Well, thanks, Gerry. I think those of us that have been through change in the payments industry and seen a lot of it have learned a few things about what works, and sometimes you'll learn more about what doesn't work in making change happen in the industry. I think my first comment is that change takes a long time in the payments industry. Taking chip and PIN as an example, the journey started in 2003, lasted over 10 years, and cost stakeholders multiple billions of dollars by the time upgrades were made to point of sale terminals and cards were reissued. And a lot happened during that time. Chip started as a fairly simple migration, as simple as changing over all those points of sale and cards can be, to chip and PIN that ended up delivering contactless tap and go transactions for more convenience, and ultimately mobile payments with payments on phones beyond the card. And when I compare that journey to real-time payments, we're really only part the way through the journey to real-time payments. The topic started to get industry attention more in 2015, but we still have a ways to go before we get to the end state promised in the Payments Canada modernization vision. While real-time rail still is the holy grail, Interac e-Transfer has many of the attractive features already in place for billers and consumers to make real-time payments happen. One thing that's critical for success when making change in the payments industry is that the industry needs to ensure that it responds to what users of the payment system need. So businesses and consumers, and I know we're going to hear some great inputs from the panelists today about their needs and the needs of their customers. And the last point, and here's where things are really quite different from when Chip rolled out, is that we're in a world today where tech players beyond the traditional banks can help to bring innovative new services to market. delivering value to consumers and to merchants. And you're going to hear about that soon enough as we talk later through the panel.
That's great. Thanks, thanks, Mike. Now we all, from our different perspectives, kind of see what we would call pain points for payments. And so, let's talk a little bit about that from different perspectives. And starting with Raphael, for a large biller like TELUS, what do you see as the pain points associated with payments for recurring bills?
Yeah, from my experience in managing collections at TELUS, the most common pain point is very often many of our customers in collections treatment are payment challenged because they're also carrying maxed out credit cards, and that really hinders their ability to make payments online or through our digital self-serve options. So, that's a rallying point for us to try and find new and innovative solutions for our customers. We really need to provide them with flexible, digital-first, secure payment alternatives to credit card, because the lack of alternatives in omnichannel really restricts their ability to stay on top of their bill payments, and subsequently, they could be finding themselves constantly falling into collections treatment. And so this really leaves us looking to the broader marketplace for innovative solutions, which, quite frankly, as a biller, we need to see more of them.
Great, thank you. Scott, what kind of issues or challenges are you hoping to see solved or addressed by billing innovations?
Well, Gerry, you opened your remarks with there hasn't been a lot of innovation in billing, and I think what we'll see is a reduction of friction for consumers and for businesses through real-time payments. As you know now, paying a bill takes anywhere from 24 to 48 hours using the batch processing cycles. And that doesn't really work for situations like Raphael mentioned, where someone's in distress, or if you're a credit card user at the point of sale and you've maxed out your line of credit, waiting 48 hours for a line increase just doesn't work. And particularly for a monoline bank or credit card issuer that doesn't have a broader relationship with a client, they can't see into deposits, make a temporary extension of the line. So I think this will really help. We know that those situations for decline in credit line increases are major points of pain for banks in contact centers. And with the integration of digital, as Mike mentioned earlier, customers will be able to self-serve from the line, make a real-time payment to their credit card, open their line, which I think reduces risk for everyone involved and increases client retention. So I expect a lot from this.
Thanks. And maybe a follow-up, Scott. You mentioned customer friction, ability to purchase. What about the collections side?
I think Raphael will probably back me up on this a lot. I think there's a tremendous amount of value for anyone that's in collections and recovery. As we know, I was thinking about this earlier this morning. I have a client with a small car loan business, and their strategy right now is to smile and dial, contact the client, and hope that they repay. In the coming world with real-time bill payments, they can be on the line with the customer. The customer can respond and pay that bill instantly, and have confirmation with the contact agent, and de-risking that transaction, so they know that the payment is good, it's been received, they're not waiting 24 to 48 hours, and then they can continue to focus on those clients that are in real distress and making accommodation or other recovery attempts with them. But I also think the benefit, it removes friction in many respects. Again, there's a lower cost involved because they're focusing on recoveries upfront, and they're less dependent on third-party agencies. So again, reduces friction and reduces cost. So better experience for everyone.
Yeah, that's great, Scott. And I just want to tell you, you're breaking up a little bit for us. So whatever you can do, maybe move a bit closer to your mic. I think we got most of that, so that's great. Lisa, what challenges for charities are different, I think, from what we've heard from Raphael and Owen. Can you tell us about the range of payment applications that Make-A-Wish needs to support the business, and what are the pain points in your current situation around payments?
So I think you mentioned in the introduction that at Make-A-Wish, we've recently experienced an amalgamation. We had the Make-A-Wish Foundation and the Children's Wish Foundation that came together. And so, one of the organizations for me operated in a decentralized model. So we had 8 separate legal entities who were all, collecting payments differently in their own way. So now I'm working literally with 9 separate systems. We've got so many platforms, payment gateways, different ways of doing things. So basically what I'm spending my time doing right now is spending an enormous amount of time tracking down how this money is collected. Did we get the money? And, for us with all these payment gateways, a popular method of payment is the credit card, and credit cards at some point in the process can be refused. And so for me, it's the problem of doing that reconciliation, finding the donation information of the donor for the refused credit card, and then reaching out to them and saying, okay, is there an alternate way you want to give? Do you have another credit card number? So for me, the process is very time consuming and really expensive. And, part of it is our amalgamation, but at the same time, we need a strategy. Just for interest, I did this back of a napkin calculation for our CEO with our current processes. And we're spending somewhere around 6 cents per dollar just reconciling, looking for the money and getting back to donors right now. And I know 6 cents to $1 doesn't sound like a lot, but that is before I add my regular administration costs and the costs of actually, fundraising to get that dollar. So that 6 cents is really important to us. You should have seen like the faces of my senior leadership team when we talked about that 6 cents.
Yeah, that's a great and really concrete example. And I actually think 6% is a lot, right? 6 cents on the dollar.
Mm-hmm.
Extend that to the economy, you get a huge number, billions of dollars, actually. So that's a super example. Mike, let's turn it back to you. Where do you think payment innovations and improvements should be focused?
Yeah, I think as we've seen evolution in payments, it's always been a matter of balancing the ability to reduce friction, but also enhance or at least keep the same level of security in payments. And if we go back again to the chip card rollout, we introduced chip and PIN. I was at Visa. In fact, Scott kind of led the job for MasterCard at the time. And we introduced, based on the British model, which was chip accompanied with PIN as it's inserted in the device. And as a result, the transactions ended up taking a little bit longer than swiping and walking, which was kind of more the magnetic stripe kind of way that people transacted at that time. And as a result, the banks and card networks went to contactless payment as a kind of the counterpoint. So if chip and PIN added the security, what contactless allowed us to do was for customers to get on with their lives, removing friction and making faster payments. And then, as I kind of started to describe earlier, Apple Pay, which and other kind of equivalent mobile payments services, ended up adding that layer of security back in, because the ability to use the phone as a way to authenticate, I think Touch ID or Face ID in the case of Apple Pay, and of course the Android equivalents, really helps to balance that convenience and security. Unfortunately, we haven't seen, like you said at the outset, Gerry, that kind of innovation out of bill pay or pre-authorized debits. Both systems were developed back in the 1980s and largely remain under the same rule framework today. So, of course, the introduction of online banking and mobile banking in the early 2000s made bill payments faster and easier for customers to use, but they didn't change the underlying transaction flow. And so customers are still kind of waiting for pre-authorized debits to go through without any real recourse to speak of, and without control over the payment, and having to provide banking information to the biller. So when I think about real-time payments, I believe it has huge potential for billers. Even with today's payment systems, real-time payments offers a direct digital connection. So Raphael spoke about digital first, the ability to be able to connect the customer with the payment method at the point where they're presented the bill by the biller in whatever channel the biller chooses, makes it a real game changer. And then the second point is receiving a real-time guarantee from the financial system that the payment is being completed. Both are really powerful features, and when put together, we think that it's going to make a really meaningful difference in how payments are completed in Canada.
Yeah, that's great. And, I mean, we're all sort of anticipating the real-time infrastructure coming in, and it's been a long time coming, and there's valid reasons for that, and sometimes frustrating reasons for that. Certainly from my perspective, but it is coming, and we can do some things while we're waiting for it to come.
Absolutely.
Let's shift a little bit here into going a bit deeper into sort of biller use cases, and maybe starting with Raphael. What do you see as the primary use case for real-time payments within your business?
Yeah, from a collections perspective, I see real-time payments as something that we can layer into our customer outreaches, mainly into collections notifications and payment reminders through SMS or even email. Real-time payment alternatives to credit card enable our customers who maybe were suspended due to non-payment to reconnect their services much faster. In today's world, we know that online banking payments can take 3 to 5 days to clear. And so that customer making a payment through online banking is waiting to reconnect and maybe dialing in multiple times throughout that week, which is hard for the customer, and also it makes it operationally challenging for us to support our collections customers. Outside of collections, like at TELUS, I think we could enable real-time payments for things like standalone device or accessory purchases, data or prepaid top-ups, monthly service bill payments, in-person door-to-door sales, home service installations with a technician right there who can SMS you a payment link. And it plays just as well for small and medium business as it does for consumers. So I really think the possibilities are endless, and up to you to be creative to find where they fit.
Yeah, super. Some super ideas there. Anything else you want to mention before I shift on to other panelists? Other improvements?
We're really looking to be efficient in how we offer these solutions to customers. We're ready to invest where we need to, but we prefer to build customer journeys out of existing capabilities and provide that better experience to our customers and ultimately better outcomes. We like solutions that seamlessly integrate, and really we're looking for as well reducing our payment processing costs through all this. We process millions of transactions every year and leverage pre-authorized credit and standalone credit payments in a major way. However, there's significant cost to this. With our customer traffic increasing online, number of transactions will only continue to increase, and so we're hyper aware of this, and we're very much interested in cutting down these costs without reducing the number of actual transactions that are flowing through us.
Great, thank you. Lisa, what about you? Other issues or areas you'd like to see real-time payments address, or anything else you'd like to expand on?
Well, I think, the difference is, as a charity, we're really held accountable to spending as much as those donated dollars on our mission, right? Which for us is really creating those wishes for Canadian children with critical illnesses. So we want to spend as little as possible on operations. So that means trying to have a really efficient process. So any additional administration costs that I can take out, tracking down credit card information, that's something we want to avoid. And then fees are also a problem for us, right? So there's fees to running the fundraising platforms, the donation platforms, fee for payment processing. Any opportunity that we can take to streamline fees for us, again, is a really, really big win. And then I think the last thing from my perspective is the donor experience. People want to give us money. They want to give to a good cause. They want to feel good about giving. And we want to preserve that feeling as much as possible. So anything that is hassle-free, easy, immediate, I mean, the donor looks at, like, for us, that's a distinct improvement on the donor experience. So all of that are things that we're really trying to get to.
Great, thank you. Well, would a panel be complete without some discussion of COVID and the impacts? Let's, just turn there briefly. Mike, what about the impacts on the industry of COVID.
And like everybody, I'm kind of living the COVID dream, as you can see from my glamorous basement surroundings behind me. In terms of the industry itself and payments, COVID has been a massive disruption. I think it's driven us all digital and in a hurry, whether that's our grocery order or orders from Hudson's Bay. It has forced a revolution, and kind of hesitate to use that word, but it really has been in how services are delivered digitally. We saw more progress in e-com in 6 months last year than we had seen in the previous 5 years. So that is going to be one of the legacies of COVID. And hopefully we can, kiss the pandemic goodbye fairly shortly. But I think those legacies will live on. I think as we've been through that, we've seen that digital payments haven't kept pace, that billers are facing higher transaction costs for e-commerce purchases, and the liability protection is weaker, higher fraud costs and chargebacks in some cases. In parallel with kind of the card experience, we've seen e-transfer continue to grow like crazy. So already a really popular service, and through the pandemic, they're continuing to see 50% year-over-year growth again. And I would not at all be surprised if 2021 isn't the year where e-transfer tops 1 billion transactions in Canada. So it's gone from being kind of a way to settle a tab after a dinner or equivalent, hopefully we'll be doing those again sometime soon, to being a mission critical way for customers to be able to pay.
Okay, so you've heard it here, folks. Mike Bradley's prediction: e-transfer over 1 billion transactions in 21. So we'll be back next year to see how well you did. Raphael, what about COVID and impact on billers like you?
Yeah, I mean, we're not immune to the effects of COVID. Obviously, the pandemic and the ensuing lockdowns have really impacted our business. For customers who are in collections treatment, our main priority has been really to keep as many customers connected to their wireless and broadband services as possible, and showing empathy and flexibility with customers who have experienced unemployment because of the lockdowns. We spend a lot of time refining our messaging to really give customers the support that we know they need during tough times, and empowering them to take action into their own hands if they're able to maintain strong payment behaviors. From a broader business, it has really been about shifting customer traffic from retail to digital, which has seemingly been a very natural change for most, which is no surprise, I think, in this day and age. And we see this shift from digital to digital remaining in a major way beyond COVID. And to that end, we've been working hard to enable as many customer journeys as possible through our digital and omni channels, while trying to decrease the dependency on agent support over the phone. This has meant more self-serve options, both online and through our communications, as well as redirecting customers through our IVR to these options to better serve them through this difficult times.
Yeah, great, thank you. And Lisa, what about COVID and the charity world? What's been the impact?
Well, I don't think we're different from a lot of charities. I mean, fundraising for Make-A-Wish Canada was something that was largely in-person events. So, COVID necessitated for us a complete switch to digital and online events. In the past year, we've seen a 30% decline in our donation dollars. But in an effort to really stem that decline, there was a push to adopt as many online platforms. And the approach was, less strategic and in the back end about, payment processing. So, now we're able to take a breath and focus on really trying to get a centralized strategy to do all those good things that I talked about, reduce administration costs, look for a comprehensive solution that really makes all of our needs. So that's kind of where we are right now.
Yeah, that's a challenging time, right? When you can't run your in-person events. I mean, wow. Well, we're coming out of it. We're coming out of it. This seems like a really good time to introduce, and have Mike kind of come back on here and introduce Click to Pay, Canada's new real-time bill payment service. Mike, first of all, tell us why you're so passionate about Click to Pay, and conference platform willing and cooperating here. I think we're going to try and show never before done in this particular way, a live demo involving all of our audience. So over to you, Mike.
Well, thanks, Gerry. So yeah, we are here today to introduce Click to Pay. It is a digital first way for billers to collect payments. And this kind of rings true, I think, with all the comments we've heard from Raphael, Lisa, and Scott. Another example from the credit card business that we know so well is many card issuers that have retail operations or branches rely still on that channel as a way to be able to take payment, even sometimes with cash, as a way to open up credit limits immediately. So this digital first initiative of Click to Pay, it starts with a biller communicating an amount due within one of its channels. It could be a call center, contact center, it could be an email, a digital bill, or even a paper bill. And today, like we've described earlier, there are some limitations around the solutions that are available. Bill pay requires more steps for the consumer. I sometimes liken this to the move away from standalone point of sale terminals to integrated point of sale terminals. We all notice the difference between when you're making a purchase and you get to the end of the till, and then the poor clerk behind the counter has to go and enter the amount separately into the point of sale terminal. That is kind of like the bill payment process today. It's disconnected from where the biller is looking to collect funds. Pre-authorized debits, we've talked about earlier, require sharing sensitive banking information with a biller and really have very little recourse for customers. And cards, terrifically convenient for the millions of Canadians who prefer to pay credit, but as the billers have said, they can be pretty expensive and subject to chargebacks. So with Click to Pay, customers pay directly from their bank accounts. A few simple clicks. We leverage the terrific utility of Interac e-transfer to complete the payment. Putting some numbers to that, beyond the 1 billion prediction, and these are hard numbers, Gerry, over 15 million Canadians use the e-transfer service every month, and nearly 50% of them have already used e-transfer to pay a bill. So Click to Pay, we're trying to provide the bridge from the biller to the payment. So the biller can embed any one of these convenient payment methods into their channels, whether it's a button that's enabled on a digital bill or online, a QR code that could be enabled through a digital or even a paper bill, or a text message with a link embedded, or even this short code, which is just a quick web ability to be able to close the payment. No matter which of these methods you choose, you click and scan one of those methods. There's 2 quick steps: log in, or select your bank, and log in, and then you pay from within your banking experience. So you really get the convenience and security of e-transfer together with providing the bridge to the biller from where the amount was due. So that's a mouthful. Let's now cover some kind of specific use cases. I'm going to actually turn it back to Raphael for just a minute to give us a brief overview of this smart home security notice.
Yeah, so as I was making reference to before, real-time payments and our collection notifications, we launched this pilot to include click-to-pay links in our collection notifications for ADT by TELUS customers who maybe had fallen a bit behind. And we've been running it for about a month now, and it's been very successful. Customers are taking to it, and so it's been working quite well for us.
Perfect. Thanks, Raphael. I'm going to switch to an example of where text messaging can be used. So let's take a customer. We've talked about the types of recovery, economic recovery from the pandemic, and whether it was going to be a V shape or U shape. I'm sure you guys remember the debate. And I think what's really become apparent is this K-shaped recovery, where some folks have done very well, right? Staying at home, saving money. Canadians have, I think, last I saw was several $100 billion extra savings at their disposal because a lot of us haven't been spending much money. But there's a different segment of society, a segment of society that Raphael mentioned earlier, who have not at all been so lucky. So let's take an example of a customer who might be overdue on a utility bill. Let's call it a hydro bill, and the power is being cut off. And no one wants that situation for themselves or their family. So in this use case, the customer calls into the contact center, and the contact center agent is able to send a real-time text message to the customer and embed in that text message this link that would allow the customer to be able to settle up on the utility bill and get their service restored with a minimum of disruption. This is a very real kind of aspect where we think that click to pay and the power of e-transfer can really help to make a meaningful difference to the economic recovery for customers and for billers. Moving on to this next use case, the ability to be able to pay down a credit card balance. Here we're showing a mobile app. We could equally be showing a web platform. We're all aware that customers are using the web and mobile as a way to stay in touch with their credit card spending. And it could be seeing recent transactions. But the payment process from within those digital channels has always been disconnected. So in order to pay that credit card bill down, typically a customer would log into their bank, identify the credit card from within the banking experience, and make the payment. We're working on a solution that allows the customer to be able to pay from within the mobile app or within the web banking experience and have that payment reflected immediately in the open to buy. So as Scott suggested earlier could be the case, we see a world where if you are at your limit or close to your limit, that you'd be able to pay $500 down from your checking account and immediately have that credit limit open back up so you can get back to shopping. Good for the biller, in this case the credit card issuer, as well as the customer who got what they want. And for the next use case, I'm going to turn it over to Lisa, who can tell us a bit more about this wish from Xander, for Xander.
So just very quickly, Make-A-Wish is the largest wish granting organization in Canada, and we're actually part of Make-A-Wish International, which is present in about 50 countries around the world. So, in short, the best way to explain what we do, which is grant wishes, is to talk about one of our wish kids. So I'm going to just talk a minute about Xander. He loves to play basketball. He loves to spend time with his family. He's a protective older brother. He'd do anything for his two little brothers. At 13, Xander was diagnosed with cancer. So Xander's diagnosis put a lot of his plans on hold as he underwent chemotherapy and focused on his health. So after about 5 months of chemotherapy and hospital visits, Xander was thrilled to have his wish granted. And what he wanted during COVID times was a backyard makeover. So you can see him with the basketball there. We gave him a really interactive sport backyard. So there's a quote directly from him. Having a wish for him was such a big thing to look forward to when he was going through chemotherapy. It really kept him going, and it was something special for him to dream about. So he says it was awesome, and the wish changed his life for the better. So the reason that I'm talking about Xander is I'm going to turn it over to Mike, and we're actually going to, people are going to have a chance to use Click to Pay and give a donation to Make-A-Wish at the same time.
Thanks, Lisa. And Gerry kind of hinted at this earlier, and you're probably wondering, well, how do I make a donation over a computer screen when I'm really not connected at all to this panel other than watching it on my screen? And we know that embedded buttons don't really work in this kind of scenario. What we've done, and this is where Gerry said, I think it's going to be a first, is enabled a QR code, which is tied to the ability to be able to make a donation to support Xander in this wish and support Make-A-Wish Foundation. For those of you who know how to use QR codes, you're probably going to, well, some of you may already be a step or two ahead of me, but for those of you that don't, not to worry, I'm going to kind of walk you through the whole process. And what's I think kind of unique about this is going to be the launch of Click to Pay, and we invite all Summit participants, including the panel, if you're interested, I'm going to do one myself, to be able to make one of these donations to support Xander and Make-A-Wish. So for those of you that haven't used a QR code before, I invite you to pull out your mobile phone. I think most of us have them handy. Those of you that are watching this panel on mobile may not be able to do this, but those of you that have your phone next to your desktop, it should work fairly well. So if you open up your camera, and this works on either an iPhone or on recent models of Android, and if you focus your camera, don't press take a picture, just focus it on the QR code. I know that certainly on my Safari browser, I don't know if you can see that, but that it opens up a queue to be able to open a website or from a QR code. That is the link over to the e-transfer facility. So those of you that have gone through that, you may be looking now at the Interac e-transfer gateway page. From that, I expect many of you kind of know how this process works already. I'll just describe what you see on the gateway page. You see a request from Make-A-Wish Foundation and the information about the biller, and in the message, some details about what the text message, or pardon me, what the request money transaction is for. If you select your bank, so I'm going to select mine, not going to say who it is, and open the mobile app, it takes me immediately over using Face ID over to my banking app. And now I'm going to blow who it is because you're going to be able to see. You can see the amount of the transaction directly from within the mobile banking interface. So I'm going to select my account from which I want to make this donation and click the next button, and then just accept the payment request. And yes, my money has been sent. So and Make-A-Wish has received $5 by virtue of this QR code. So I know that was really quick, kind of a walkthrough, and certainly I've done this before, so it would be a little bit quicker for me. I'm going to just kind of walk through that again a little bit slower to allow folks from the audience a chance to kind of go through the experience again. And hey, nothing wrong with benefiting Make-A-Wish twice. In fact, maybe that's what I'll do. So again, if you open up your camera on your phone and just point it at the QR device, what happens is you see a link at the top of your camera that opens up the QR code reader. We've all seen this at restaurants increasingly through the pandemic and on shop doors as a way to communicate web links. And really that's what we're doing here, is we're redirecting the customer towards a place where that transaction can be completed successfully. So if you can make the QR reader work, you then get dropped into the standard Interac e-transfer process. And using that process, that's where you select your bank. I will select a different one this time, accept the request. And this one, my password isn't saved on the device, so it won't blow who that is. But I will enter the password and sign in. And once signed in for the bank, we see again there we go, the $5 Make-A-Wish Smart Link registered in the payment. So now we're looking at blue, not green. I guess I am blowing the secret again. I'm going to select the account and continue and accept the request to complete the payment. And again, we're now at 10, Lisa. I can keep going, but at some point it's going to start to bounce on me. So in a nutshell, that is Click to Pay. And whether we've been looking at one of these links from a text message, or whether we've been clicking a button in Raphael's digital bill or collections notice, or whether you're looking at a QR code either on the screen or on a paper bill, or even this short code, each Click to Pay payment comes with a 7-letter code that a biller can just point the customer to in order to be able to complete the payment. And there you have it. It's click or scan the link, 2 quick steps, which is select your bank and log in, and then pay from within your banking experience. And yeah, so I'll just pause there and maybe turn it back to Lisa.
Thank you. I actually did a donation while you were talking. I scanned the QR code and went through and got to my bank and did the donation. So in my world, this is there's quite a few benefits that I can see on how we can use this. Once we're back in a fundraising mode where we're in front of people, having a card with a QR code in front of us as we're working an event, people can just scan and pay on the spot is an amazing proposition. We're launching a campaign soon where we work with convenience stores, most of them associated with the gas stations. And, we all used to see those jars that used to sit next to the cash register where people could just put their spare change. Well, now we don't have pennies, and I don't know who carries spare change, but I don't. So we need another way to capture that type of a donation for people who are in front of the cash and just want to do something quickly. So, putting a QR code and having that little poster board where somebody can just scan and make the donation right there in like 2 steps is something we're really, really looking forward to launching soon. So I think, the other thing for us is because it's immediate and it goes through your banking institution, I'm no longer scrambling with refused credit cards, which is, where we spend a lot of time today. So looking forward to getting rid of, spending time on that. So those are just a few ways that I think, we've thought through how we can use the technology. And I'm sure, we're going to come up with a few more as we keep thinking about it. So back to you, Mike.
Lisa, you said at the outset, for charities, it was so important to make it easy. And that was super easy. I mean, I also donated, and I'll be, very curious to see how that worked out for donations, just this practical example. But I was done way before Mike got halfway through his explanation. So it really works pretty slick. But Scott, let's turn to you. What do you think the main benefits to billers for this kind of solution will be?
Well, I think it's ultimately
will be.
Well, I think it's ultimately the reduced friction. As you just mentioned, Gerry, you were through the transaction in less time than Mike, read through the flow. And the same with Lisa. This is as we go to the last mile and cash disappears. It allows organizations such as yours to earn money in environments that weren't available or until today with the launch of ClickToPay.
Yeah. And Raphael, some thoughts on what you've just seen and how it could benefit your business?
Yeah, the flexibility of Click-to-Pay is incredible and really would help our customers in making their bill payments. The experience is really enhanced through the one-click, air quotes, one-click capability, and a really smooth interface that customers can easily navigate through, in no time at all. I also took the opportunity to follow the QR code, and same as Scott, I was done before Mike got through the demo. It's really that easy and self-explanatory. And a side benefit for us really is reducing our payment processing costs, which makes us a win for our customers and for TELUS.
Yeah, I think this cost reduction, although sometimes it's hard to get people excited about it because it's little bits of hundreds of millions of transactions. It's actually a huge impact for larger companies, all companies, and the economy overall, which ultimately cost savings get passed on to consumers over time. So, it's pretty exciting. Maybe we need to get Mike to get a bit sharper and faster on his explanation of this. So he can keep up with the technology. I don't know.
Yeah. If I could jump in on that, Gerry, we showed the QR code. You'd asked, you wondered kind of how many people were using it. I can tell you that we're nearly at 100 transactions already, and it's probably worth covering. I didn't mention it when the slide was up, that we've agreed with Click-to-Pay and Make-A-Wish to keep this campaign going all month. So it gives people an opportunity to try Click-to-Pay. we're happy to pay the transaction fees associated with it, just to kind of allow people to be able to try the technology and experience it for themselves. So if you're looking for it, you can find it over at our booth. We have a virtual trade booth at click2pay.com, which I think we'll put some information in the chat about, and you'll be able to see our press release there as well. So looking forward to seeing those numbers grow past the 100 that we're already at over the course of the next month.
Okay. All right. 100 already. That's awesome. Great. We're going to shift a little bit on the topic here, just before we move into questions from the audience. And this is for Scott. We're expecting the pending C86 legislation to come into effect. How do you see that impacting billers and their customers?
Sure, thanks, Gerry. So just for those who don't know, Bill C86 has enhanced consumer protections within the Bank Act. And in my world, focusing on credit cards, going forward, issuers will be required to send notifications to their customers that are within $100 of their credit limit. So I think, that's a great innovation. I would have rather seen innovation in the market rather than legislation. But sending a call to action with no way to fulfill it, I think is going to drive negative consumer experience, likely drive calls to contact centers. But if you incorporate click to pay in that, click to pay transaction flow in that type of notification, it provides an ability to act, to solve a consumer's problem, like we mentioned at the point of sale. If they're within $100 of their credit line limit, make a real-time payment, open up your open UI. So I think it will have a positive impact on banks, and click to pay is a way to fulfill that. I think an easy and a customer-friendly way to fulfill the notification requirements coming with legislation. So I think it'll be good.
Great, thanks, Scott. So our list of questions from the audience has kind of grown here. We have a good 10 plus minutes to hit some of these. So there's one interesting kind of sort of philosophical question here. At what point does the value of real time diminish versus batch if the cost is higher? So that's maybe the kicker there, if the cost is higher. I don't know, Mike, do you want to take that one to start?
Sure, I'd be happy to give it a shot. I'm going to talk first about the drivers of cost and compare batch to real time. Today, we're talking about a service that has relatively low volumes in terms of real-time bill payments. But as more volume moves, the world is moving to real time. Let's be honest. I mean, everything we do, at my age, I live in a batch world. My kids are not living in a batch world. They're living in a world where everything happens instantly, from getting the Fortnite bucks downloaded and credited to their account, to someday it'll be paying Raphael's phone bill, or Lisa's, making a donation to Lisa's Make-A-Wish Foundation. And I believe that's going to result in a key metric changing. So I'm kind of challenging the premise of the question, which is, as volume increases and real-time networks become pervasive, why wouldn't we start to look at whether, batch transactions do migrate off? I mean, right now, batch works, right? We've lived it, we've loved it, and it accounts for many, many transactions. And they're going to stay around for a very long time. But I could just see that, while collections is an early use case because it has such value add that it's delivering for credit card issuers, for telcos, that it could migrate into bill payments, which are regular payments. We're already talking about, early collections, before they actually get sent to treatment, as another use case, and then just maybe your regular bill payment. Customers will drive us there too. Where this disconnected process that we have today is being replaced with serving it up on a platter, a pre-programmed transaction that you just click a link to and complete it. So, Gerry.
Yeah, great, thanks. And maybe just a follow-up relating specifically to click to pay. So click to pay is kind of the jargon we would use in the payments industry is an overlay on Interac e-transfer. So what is the benefit of the real-time rail? So next year, real-time rail is coming in, and we hope and expect that it has request to pay functionality in it. how does that benefit not Click to Pay, but Click to Pay's customers?
Yeah. Yeah, so I also don't mind taking that. I've been close to the real-time rail, as I know you sure have. And first off, I'm going to mention that we connect to Interac via our banking partner, People's Trust, have been a terrific innovator in the space. When we move to real-time rail, we believe that it's only going to make the service better. So today, for example, Raphael or Lisa, their organizations, would initiate payments with us, either real-time via an API or through a batch upload. Those transactions, as they get completed, the funds come through to our bank, but they don't get settled out to the commercial banking accounts for TELUS and Make-A-Wish until the settlement comes through. Of course, as we know, real-time rail will deliver real-time, not just exchange of payments, but also clearing and settlement of the transactions. So it won't just be a real-time payment guarantee, but it will be a real-time payment. And it's a nuance, but it's an important one in our industry.
Right. Okay, thank you. I have another question here from the audience, and we may have touched on this before, but let's address it again. As a biller, how can Click to Pay help reconciliation? Raphael, I think you touched on this, and I know, Lisa, you did too, but Raphael, can you just address that question?
Yeah, it actually simplifies it a little bit in the sense that you know which customers you're creating links and QR codes for on the outbound, and on the inbound, with the Click to Pay settlement report, you know exactly which of those customers followed through and made the payment. And so if you can connect that with some internal automation with your billing, it really simplifies the process overall, and the amount of work, the manual work that's going on in the background to match up payments. So, through this process with Click to Pay, it really reduces the number of steps, and it fits in with the existing processes. So reconciliation becomes actually almost moot. It just happens, and it happens accurately. So it's been pretty positive experience for us.
Great, thank you. There's another question from the audience for panelists about request to pay functionality. And I think where that comes from may be that there's maybe some debate about whether the new real-time rail has request to pay functionality embedded in it, and or whether it's there from the start or whether it comes in a bit later. So I don't know. I mean, Scott, do you want to cut in on that one?
Sure. I mean, real-time rail will come with request to pay functionality, provided you're using Interac as your service provider. As we all know, with the real-time rail, there's potential for third parties to be entering in as well at the connection and exchange. But certainly next year, as Interac real-time comes in, it should definitely support this overlay that Mike and the team at Click to Pay have built.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. We are essentially a minute away from our end here, and so I think it's a good time for me to thank very much the panelists for your time, preparation, your insights. I'm sure the audience really appreciates it. I certainly enjoyed the conversation. And finally, to say, if anyone wants more information about Click to Pay as a product, and how billers can benefit from real-time payments, there's the virtual booth, as Mike mentioned. You can look them up in the Brain Date room, or you can attend one of the open house sessions taking place over the next 3 days. We're going to put the link for the open house in the chat box. And of course, you can visit the company website at clicktopay.com at any time. So thanks again to the panelists. Congratulations to Payments Canada. Have a great. Oh, Mike.
Gerry, can I just do one more? Sorry, but look, this is the audience. This is the audience launching Click to Pay. We got to nearly 200 transactions in the last few months. So thanks everybody.
Awesome. Excellent. We doubled in the last thing. So anyway, thanks everybody. and have a great rest of the conference. Thank you.